If you've ever had a routine physical, then chances are you've had a complete blood count, or a CBC. It's one of the most common medical tests in the entire world, just a simple draw of blood from your arm. But you should not let that simplicity fool you. This one single test is actually one of the most powerful snapshots we can get of our overall health.
You know, this quote from our source material really nails it. A CBC is kind of like a liquid biopsy of your body's health. What seems like this simple, everyday procedure actually unlocks a whole world of information about everything from infections and anemia to nutritional issues and even some cancers.
So that's the big question, isn't it? In the next few minutes, we're going to unpack this so-called Pandora's box. We'll decode the numbers and really get why this humble blood test is such a powerhouse in medicine. So let's crack it open and see what's inside.
Okay, so here's our game plan. First, we'll talk about why the CBC is basically the MVP of blood testing. Then we'll get into what it actually is, what it can tell us about our health, the massive amount of data it gives us, and finally, and this part is so important, how all those numbers get put into context to tell a story about you.
I love how our source material calls the CBC the meat and potatoes of hematology. And that's not just some catchy phrase. It really means that the CBC is the foundational, absolutely essential core of blood diagnostics. It's the starting point for so much in modern medicine. So what makes it the MVP? Well, it's this incredible combination of things. It's barely invasive, we're just talking a quick blood draw. It's super economical, which makes it accessible to almost everyone. But the big thing is the sheer amount of information you get back. The cost-to-information ratio is just off the charts, which makes it an absolute must-have for doctors.
All right, let's get down to basics. A lot of people think a complete blood count is just one single measurement, but it's not. The name itself is the clue. It's a complete count, meaning it's a whole panel of different but related tests, all done on that one little sample of your blood. So what are we actually evaluating here? Well, this panel is basically a deep dive into all the major cells floating around in your blood. You've got the red cells carrying oxygen, the white cells fighting off infections, and the platelets that help you clot. And we're not just counting them, we're measuring them, looking at their shapes and sizes, and seeing how they all play together. And when you look at the core components, you can see just how comprehensive this thing is. It's not just a simple count. We're looking at your red blood cells, your white blood cells, and your platelets. But then it goes even deeper, measuring things like hemoglobin. That's the protein that actually carries the oxygen, and it calculates these things called red blood cell indices, which give us huge clues about the size and health of each individual cell.
So why is this test everywhere? Why does your doctor order it for a routine checkup, or when you say you're tired or you have a fever? It's because it gives us this incredible, direct look inside your body's main manufacturing plant.
I absolutely love this metaphor from the source. Just picture your bone marrow as this busy factory running 24/7, constantly producing all of your blood cells. A CBC is like the factory's daily production report. It tells your doctor if everything's running smoothly, if there are any defects in the products, or maybe if one assembly line is working overtime while another's falling behind.
And that production report can point to a mind-blowing range of conditions. It is truly amazing. A single report can give you clues for everything from a common iron deficiency, which shows up in your red cells, to signs of an infection making your white cell count go crazy, all the way to really serious diseases like leukemia. It's very often the first step to figuring out what's really going on.
Back in the day, a CBC meant a lab technician was literally counting cells one by one under a microscope. But wow, has technology changed the game. Today's automated machines have turned that Pandora's box into a fire hose of data, giving us incredible detail with amazing speed and accuracy.
So just how much data are we talking about here? From a single tiny vial of blood, the most advanced analyzers can spit out around 33 different parameters. 33. Just think about that for a second. From one little blood sample, we get 33 different data points about the factory running inside your bones.
Let's just look at a few examples of what this all means. For your red cells, it's not just the count. We get these indices like MCV, which tells us the average size of your red blood cells. Now, why does that matter? Well, it's a huge clue for diagnosing different kinds of anemia. For white cells, we get a breakdown showing the percentage of different types, like neutrophils, which are your body's first responders when you get a bacterial infection. This level of detail is exactly what makes the test so powerful.
Okay, now we get to what is maybe the most crucial part of this whole thing. When you've got 33 different numbers on a report, it can be really tempting to see a value that's outside the normal range and immediately jump to a conclusion. But this is where the expertise is absolutely essential. A number is just a clue. It is not the final answer.
All right, let's try a quick example. Take a look at this number, a hemoglobin of 13.0. Is that normal? Is it low? High? What do you think? Well, the answer, which might surprise you, is it totally depends on who you are.
See, for an adult woman, a hemoglobin of 13.0 is perfectly fine, right in the middle of the normal range. But for an adult man, that exact same number would actually get flagged as low, because their normal range starts a bit higher. It's the same number, but the context gives it two completely different meanings.
And this gets even more dramatic when we look at other values, like hematocrit. That's just the percentage of your blood made up of red cells. For an adult woman, normal is somewhere between 35 and 44%. But look at a newborn baby. Their normal range is a massive 42 to 68%. A number that would be dangerously high in an adult is totally normal for a newborn.
And this is really the key takeaway here. What's normal is not some universal number set in stone. It changes based on your age, your sex, and even other demographic factors. A good doctor doesn't just look at the number. They interpret it within the unique context of you, the patient. They're piecing together a puzzle, and the CBC is just providing some really vital clues.
And that brings us to this final, really essential point from our source. As incredible as our automated machines are, they don't replace the trained human eye. The technology is amazing. It gives us the data, the numbers, the charts. But it's the experienced professional who actually looks at the blood under a microscope, who understands the context, and who ultimately turns that flood of data into a meaningful diagnosis.
The complete blood count is just such a great example of how something that seems totally routine can hold this immense complexity and value. It's a reminder to always look a little closer, because sometimes the most amazing insights are hiding in the places we look every single day. It really makes you wonder, what other simple things in our lives contain a secret universe of information, just waiting for us to understand it? Thanks for tuning in.